Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome to another Make Great Stuff how-to video. Today's video is Stamping and Embossing 101, creating a simple gift tag. Here's an example of what I'll be making in today's video. Tools and supplies. Here's an overview of what you need to get started. On the left is an embossing gun. An embossing gun blows a jet of hot air that melts the embossing powder onto your stamped image. You'll also need a stamp pad. Check that the stamp pad says pigment ink on the outside label. Pigment ink stays wet longer and allows the embossing powder to stick to your stamped image. Dye-based stamp pads dry too quickly for this technique. Of course, you'll also need embossing powder. I mostly use metallic powders myself. I'll be using a silver color in today's video. And then you'll need a stamp that you love. I've got a great one here from Stampers Anonymous. I'm also showing a little to from stamp. I won't be using it in today's video, but it's a cute touch for your gift tags. There are a lot of gorgeous stamps out there, and finding your favorites is half the fun. You'll also need a paper trimmer or a craft punch to cut out your tag at the end. I'm using a large circle punch for today's video, but there are lots of large punches and fun shapes that you might like to try for your gift tags. In addition, you'll also need a smaller circle punch to create a hole at the top of your tag to run a ribbon through so you can attach your tag to a gift. I'm not showing them here, but of course you'll also need a piece of pretty cardstock, as well as a couple of sheets of scrap paper to keep track of your embossing powder. I tend to just use printer paper as my scrap because it's a good size for easily pouring the powder back into the jar. Step 1. Waking up your stamp. Your stamp has been snoozing in the drawer for a while now, so it's important to wake your stamp up before asking it to work. I always do this by stamping on some scrap paper first before working on my project. Ink your stamp as you see me doing here, and then just lay your stamp down and press firmly. Once you have an evenly inked image, your stamp is ready to go. With larger stamps, this might take a few tries. This one looks good. Step 2. Stamping the image and applying the powder. Make sure you have all your supplies at your fingertips when you're ready to emboss. It's also a really good idea to use a piece of cardstock that's larger than your final tag, because it frees you from trying to center your stamp perfectly on a small piece of paper. And then you can decide on image placement at the end when you're trimming your design. So ink your stamp once again as you see me doing here, and then check that it's lined up the way you want it. I'm going to place the image in the bottom right corner of the cardstock to minimize waste. I press down firmly and then lift and check the image. It looks good. I pick up a jar of embossing powder and sprinkle it across my design, tipping the cardstock back and forth to make sure I've covered the entire image. Then I'll tap off the excess and I'm ready to go. Here's a close-up of the powder on the image. Don't touch the powder at this point, because it will come off. Before you start embossing, return the excess powder to the jar. See how easy that is? Step 3. Melting and hardening the powder. Turn on the embossing gun and point it at your project, waving it gently across the entire image, back and forth, always moving. The embossing gun sounds like a hairdryer, so I've turned the sound off so you can hear what I'm saying. As the powder heats up, it starts to melt and the magical transformation begins. Watch the upper right-hand corner of the image. There it goes. I love that. Keep waving the gun over the image until the whole thing has transformed and all the powder is melted. Once the heat gun is turned off, the powder hardens in seconds. Almost done. There we go. Good times. Step 4. Cutting out your tag. To cut out your tag, turn the punch upside down and slide the cardstock in so you can see your design through the hole at the bottom of the punch. No guesswork required. Line it up just where you want it to go. This design is slightly larger than the punch, so I'm choosing what bits to trim off. When your design is lined up just the way you want it, grab the handle with both hands and press together firmly. Your tag should pop out easily. Voila! All you need to do now is punch a small hole at the top, cut a length of ribbon, and fold it in half to slide it through the hole. Slide the loose ends through the loop as you see here, and gently pull them through. Now you're ready to tie your tag to your gift, and everyone will think you're wildly creative if they don't already. I thought it might be useful and fun to see the same stamped image embossed in a couple of different ways. I stamped this one onto a shipping tag, and I used a second stamp and 2 colors of embossing powder. I also added more ink colors with my fingers or by rubbing different stamp pads directly onto the tag. On this one, I used copper embossing powder on blue scrapbook paper. And on this one, I used gold embossing powder on a slightly darker red card, and I think it has a nice holiday feel. And on this one, I used just a little embossing powder so that the stamp color showed through. It has a more distressed look that I also like. Thanks for watching another Make Great Stuff how-to video. Come visit us at makegreatstuff.com and take your creativity to the next level.